Secondly, I'm going to be addressing that Babylon, this is Popery, and John Kerry are actually stating that the First Amendment is a major hindrance, a major block for them censoring free speech. Both have also said you are sick if you promote what they call disinformation. Both have said that they will blot us out of existence. This right now is trending, and we're going to be addressing that because these things are fulfilling end-time prophecies. Let's get right into it, shall we, my friends? This is day 1092 without a public remorse apology from the SDA leaders.
I don't think it was helpful to ignore 25,000 signatories of doctors, pastors, teachers, engineers, janitors, etc., who saw potential trouble in the affirmation statement of October 2021.
October 2021, that's October 25th to be exact, 2021. From that date to the present, October 2nd, 2024, it is 1,092 days since the SDA leaders actually united with the state, don't you forget that, with the state, and promoted Babylon's sorcery, trampled upon the liberty of conscience, the freedom of its members, and actually persuaded their members to submit to the government. These articles I'm simply referencing because I've covered them before. And in this video clip, the PARL director actually stated, we would not impinge upon the realm of state authority. Of course, the context is clear. They united with the state. And I won't play that. And the great question is, are we now seeing that one of the 8 tentacles of Mother Beast, Babylon, the papacy, just as the octopus has 8 tentacles, one of them is ministers of the beast, MOB, which brings us to the mark of the beast, MOB. All linked to mother of the beast, MOB. Are we now seeing ministers of the beast within the SDA community? Ministers of the beast within the SDA community, promoting Babylon's sorcery, mother of all beasts. Take a look at this, my friends. I want to be very clear. I believe that there are leaders of secret societies that run the church and run the state. And that is a statement that we are going to unpack in part today. And later on, in subsequent lessons, I will say more. My cup is full by God's grace. Let's get right into it. What is trending now, friends? Here it is. John Kerry calls the First Amendment a major block to stopping what he calls and they call disinformation. John Kerry says the First Amendment is getting in the way of online censorship. John Kerry tells WEF, I wonder why would he be so bold to make the statement at the World Economic Forum? Why? Because birds of a feather flock together. Show me your company, I will tell you who you are. John Kerry tells WEF and the world, our First Amendment stands as a major block against hammering disinformation out of existence. May I ask you a question? We're on social media. We're on legacy media. MSM, do you find any criticism from legacy media against this statement from John Kerry? That is out of existence, pun intended. So what we're now seeing is actually one of those 8 tentacles of Mother Beast that will lead to the mark of the beast, and that is monitoring of the beast, media of the beast, MOB. Here's a clip, lest you think those sites got it wrong. Here he is, John Kerry.
And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera.
Clip 2.
But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So,
what a bold statement. The First Amendment stands as a major block to hammer it out of existence. Hammer what out of existence? What he calls disinformation. May I ask you a question? Is disinformation abstract? No. People, they claim, are promoting disinformation. So what will they do to those people? Hammer them out of existence. And beloved, we're now seeing something similar going on within the SDA community. What has happened to Dr. Conrad Vine since his statements publicly against the SDA leadership? They're actually censoring him, marginalizing him, hammering him out of existence, blacklisting him, banning him from pulpits in the SDA local churches. What we are now seeing is the ministers of the beast, not only in Babylon, in the world, but also in the church, the SDA community. And as I progress in this presentation, I'm going to be comparing, showing you the juxtaposition in the world and also in the church. Here is John Kerry. The man is going to tell us that this election coming up November 5th is all about limiting the effect of the First Amendment. It's time to implement change. That's what the man said. Again, context is king. Context is everything. John Kerry, here he is.
What we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change. Now, obviously, there are some people that aren't.
Implement change. What change? Clip 2. Stay right there. What change? Context. Context is key. They want to hammer out of existence disinformation, number one. And number two, the First Amendment stands as a major block in our efforts. And this election will bring change. This is what the election is all about: to destroy, to remove, to limit the impact, the effect of the First Amendment. I've never heard it put like this publicly, without any qualification. This is what the tyrants mean. This is what their goal is. Watch carefully.
Be able to implement change. Now, obviously, there are some people in our country who are prepared to implement change in other ways. And so that's really dangerous.
You're questioning really if democracy can survive unregulated social media?
I think democracies are very challenged right now and have not proven they can move fast enough or big enough to deal with the challenges that we are facing. And to me, that is part of what this race, this election is all about. Will we break the fever in the United States?
Mercy. Will we break the fever? This is what this election is all about. We want to limit the effectiveness, the impact, the cover, the refuge that we have under the First Amendment. That's what he just said. He went on to state, it's time to move fast. We aren't moving fast enough. Stop it right there. Let's get back to Inspiration, Volume 9. Page 11 clearly says that the final movements will be rapid ones. We're now seeing it. The agencies of evil are combining their forces and consolidating. They are strengthening for the last great crisis Great changes are soon to take place in our world. And the final movements will be rapid ones. The man just said it's time to implement change. What change? Let's get back to the Bible. Inspiration. Revelation 13 verse 11 brings to view a change that will come to America from a beast, that's the nation, with two horns like a lamb. Those two horns, religious freedom and civil freedom. Those freedoms enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to gather, yes, freedom of worship and religion, and to petition the government, redress grievances, freedoms. But verse 11 says she will speak as a dragon. Verse 12, force everybody to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. That is popery, verse 1 through verse 10. And then verse 14, she will form, America, will form an image, watch this now, an image to popery. Verse 15, false worship in America or be killed if you dissent and oppose. Verse 16 through 17, you won't be able to buy or sell. Freedoms null and void in America. We're now seeing the change, the transformation for the worse. Have you ever heard someone make the statement publicly as a chief executive in America? Who is John Kerry? The man once ran for public office, for president, VP as well. The premier envoy, ambassador of this administration to the world, John Kerry, leading voice to combat climate change from America's perspective to the world. John Kerry making such statement. We must castrate the First Amendment. This is the image of the beast. Beloved, that's in the world. But watch now. In the book Last Day Events, give that to me, preacher. In the book Last Day Events, page 227, paragraph 3, paragraph 2, the Lord has shown me clearly. The image of the beast will be formed before probation closes, for it is to be the great test for the people of God by which their eternal destiny will be decided. The image of the beast. Now, is that going on in the SDA community? Yes. We just saw during the pestilence 19 pandemic, the SDA leaders joined with the state, that's it, to promote Babylon's sorcery, Babylon's inoculation. That is the image of the beast being formed in the SDA community. I just gave you those clips in part. And as in the world, silence every voice of opposition. Blot them out of existence. What's happening now in the SDA community? They are banning, censoring, blacklisting. Do you see it now? Dr. Vine and others. They want to silence every dissenting voice. The image of the beast is being formed right now in the SDA community. And many folks will love to say, Pastor Enriquez, don't talk about these things. They hope that by me not saying anything, the issue will just die away. But Jesus says, lift up thy voice like a trumpet. Show my people their transgression, the house of SDA, their sins. The image of the beast is being formed. They hope that we'll go back to the days of cassettes ministry, newsletter ministry, when if there was an issue, it would take weeks and months to be circulated to SDAs who are concerned worldwide. But with social media, once there's a breaking news, we can simply record audio, video, and send that out worldwide with the protest, a call for reformation. They despise social media. And as a result, they want to silence voices. The image of the beast is being erected in the SDA community. Yes. And that's why they want to silence us. But praise God, we're not going backwards to cassette days and newsletter days only. And then came along CDs and DVDs. You have to wait. And before there were cassettes, what happened? You had to wait until that minister came to your camp meeting, your local church, and tell you of the atrocities going on publicly in the SDA community. And it's time for the protest and reformation. They want to bring us back to antiquity, going back to the dark ages. No, it's a new day. They want to silence us in the book Great Controversy. Preacher. Page 445. We're told clearly the image of the beast is when the church unites with the state. Yes. And to force the conscience, Great Controversy, page 445. Go back and read that, my friends. I'll give you the paragraph. Page 445. And that is the chapter, God's Law Immutable. Paragraph 1 of page 445. Go back and read that, friends. It's being formed. Now, let's get to secret societies. John Kerry, look at your screen. It says the 13 most powerful members of Skull and Bones. Those of you who are live with me, do you recall that secret society, Skull and Bones? It's one of several. The 13 most powerful members of Skull and Bones. Well, John Kerry is number 8. It's right there on the screen. Look who is number 10. George W. Bush. 8 and 10. And the reason why I'm giving you these two men is because both men claim to be on two different sides of the spectrum. But since they are part of the same secret society, it's the same agenda that they are pushing. But they approach the end goal from two separate perspectives. Have you ever gone to a mall? Let me give you that. Or even Walmart or Whole Foods, two separate sides of the spectrum. No shopping mall has only one entrance in these days. Walmart, you have left entrance, right entrance, but you can approach Walmart from either entrances. You see my point? Whole Foods from both entrances. Left, Democrat as it were. Right, Republicans. Secret societies. Take a look at this, my friends.
We're both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322.
First of all, he's not the nominee. And, look, I look forward...
Are you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
Mercy.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, a secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets, Tim, but one thing is not a secret. I disagree with this president's direction that he's taking the country. We can do a better job, and I intend to do it.
And we'll be watching. Be safe on the campaign trail. John Kerry, thanks for joining us. And we'll be right back.
That's clear. Friends, they are not opposing parties. They could not be if they all belong to the same society. Is that going on in the SDA community? Do you know that several SDA leaders, not only at GC level or even division, union, or even conferences, but local SDA pastors belong to secret societies such as fraternities, the Greek fraternities. They go back to ancient mysticism. Greece, Greek culture, Persia, Babylon. Come on, friends, wake up. And many of them are part of the so-called brotherhood. Many liberal SDA pastors and so-called conservative pastors belong to the same so-called brotherhood fraternities that came from Babylon, Egypt, Babylon, Persia, Greece. And remember, what is the body of the actual papacy? It's the leopard. Leopard is Greece. Same system, different perspectives. Pagan Rome, fraternities. Look at this right here, friends. They went to Yale. You mean Yale Law School? Great Controversy, page 235. These schools and colleges for princes and sons of nobles were established by the papacy to get these leaders in America to be educated, to be Jesuit trained, to carry out the same objective of popery. And what is that? To overthrow Protestantism, overthrow freedoms, and to bring about the re-emergence of Babylon, the Antichrist, the papal power. You're seeing it now. This is Bush on the right. Hear what he says about popery. When you look in the eyes of the Pope, what do you see? And Bush said, I see God.
Hey, Mr. President.
I thought he was Protestant. Oh, Texas, Protestant state, Texas, red state. I thought Protestantism meant to protest against popery, not to look at the Pope and say, I see in his eyes God. Protest is over. Do you see it now? It's going on also in the SDA community. Look at that picture. On the left of your screen, that's a so-called Protestant civil leader shaking the hands of popery. What did Ganun Diop do? SDA leader of PARL shook the hands of the Pope and said popery has changed. Might as well. Someone asked Mr. Diop, what do you see when you look in the eyes of Pope Francis? He might say, I see God. Here it is.
Hey, Mr. President, final question.
Yes, sir.
You said famously, when you looked into Vladimir Putin's eyes, you saw his soul.
Yeah.
When you look into Benedict XVI's eyes, what do you see?
God.
Good way to end the interview.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
Yes, sir.
And just remember, friends, if I replay every single clip to make my points, we won't finish. So I'm hoping that you are recalling these statements. Remember, Diop said in that same meeting in Nairobi, that SDA church about two weeks ago, the man said, nothing is wrong with meeting with a cardinal, a bishop, the Pope, and shake their hands, because to me, the Pope is just another person. I see God. Popery has changed. Look at this right here. This is John Kerry now.
You're on a very important mission here to Europe. Can you tell us, why is it important to include a visit with the Pope during your visit to Europe to talk about climate change?
Well, the Pope is one of the great voices of reason and compelling moral authority on the subject of the climate crisis. He's been ahead of the curve. He's been a leader. His encyclical Laudato Si is really a very, very powerful document, eloquent and morally very persuasive.
Oh, yeah?
And
Laudato Si? You mean the same Laudato Si that promotes Sunday worship by law to combat climate change? And what is Kerry pushing? To combat climate change. And what he says is that solution? Laudato Si, written by the Pope of Rome. Sunday worship by law. Let me connect this now. On the right, in the right corner, in the red trunks, you have George W. Bush. I look in the eyes of the Pope and I see God. That is blasphemy. To say a man is God is blasphemy. John chapter 10, verse 30 through verse 33. And since he said the Pope is God on earth, that means the man is promoting what Pope stands for. We are the vicar of Christ, 666. He's promoting Antichrist, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 and verse 4. And since he's God, says George Bush, that means he must receive what the true God must receive, which is worship. And here comes John Kerry now, promoting Laudato Si. And Laudato Si is promoting Sunday worship by law. It's all connected. Birds of a feather flock together. Do you see it? And now we see in the SDA community, what are they promoting? Babylon's wine, Babylon's sorcery. Next is going to be Sunday worship by law. Because both Wilson and Diop said, we're not going to go against what the government promotes. That means when the government promotes Sunday worship by law, what would they do? They'll also promote it and persuade SDAs to honor Sunday by law. And many are banking on the fact when that takes place that they will not bow down to Sunday, but that is a deception, self-deception. Because a crisis simply reveals character. And those who have step by step yielded to worldly demands and conformed to worldly customs will receive the mark of the beast. Now, for this to take place, they have to trample upon the amendments, freedoms in America. Take a look at this. Who despises the U.S. Constitution and calls its freedoms a pestilential error that must be discarded? That's the Pope of Rome. Not just this Pope, but popery, all previous popes to this one. There's no getting around that. That was written in their encyclicals. And remember, when they speak and write in their encyclical, that means those words are infallible. It's right there. And what is John Kerry pushing? We must remove the First Amendment because it is a major block to censor free speech, or what they call disinformation. This Pope says freedom of expression has limits. Let that sink in. Abraham Lincoln, as president, said, the Jesuits despise our sacred rights. They despise our liberties. That's Abraham Lincoln in the book 50 Years in the Church of Rome. All right. And here is the Catholic press stating, to understand Pope Francis, look to the Jesuits. Here is John Kerry.
And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today.
Do you see it, friends? So not only on climate change, they need to censor speech. They need to blot out of existence the First Amendment to combat climate change. The man just said any other issue. It's difficult to have consensus. That sounds to me like the Tower of Babel. In chapter 11 of Genesis, when Nimrod said to combat another flood, in chapter 6 through chapter 10 of Genesis, to combat climate change, we must build this tower and this city. And everybody must speak the same language. There must be no dissent, no voice of opposition. You see it now? That's it. And what did God do thereafter? He destroyed that Tower of Babel. Babel, Babylon. Do you see it, my friends? So John Kerry and others are a part of the building of the system of Babylon, a modern Tower of Babel. When you look at history, do you know Nimrod was actually a part of a secret society? Do you know that Freemasons and Freemasonry, these fraternities, Adam Weishaupt, look it up. Adam Weishaupt, Adam Weishaupt, look it up. With what they wear down here, aprons, and the actual compass, look it up, Freemasonry. And the ruler, look it up, friends. The Tower of Babel was a system of secret societies. Babel, Babylon, Jesuitism, popery, skull and bones. The Greek fraternities, not only in the world, but also in the SDA churches. Hear me, hear me, hear me. Breaking news. That is one of the reasons. If the SDA leaders were to find out that one of their leading pastors have committed public abominations, they simply sit him down for a few months or move him around to a different conference district. And then he is reinstated to his position. Do you know why? One main reason is that pastor is a part of the quote-unquote brotherhood. That pastor is a member of some Greek fraternity. And the leaders of the conference are also a part of these Greek fraternities, secret societies. And by the way, these fraternities don't only unite SDA members and pastors, but the fraternities also unite with SDA pastors men from the world, from Babylon. I know of what I speak. Because even at Oakwood, they had fraternities on the campuses, and many SDA young men were in the fraternities, and many men from other colleges from Babylon were also a part of the same fraternities. How can you have a brotherhood with SDAs and men from Babylon? 2 Corinthians 6, verse 14 to verse 18, come out from among them and be ye separate. For what fellowship has light with darkness? He who believes with an infidel. Come on, friends. Move on. Listen.
Yeah, you know, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact have kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And
we want referees. So who shall be the referees? We must control speech, pages, platforms that are opposing our narrative. That's why chapter 18 of Revelation, verse 2, that speaks about Babylon. Verse 3 says, Babylon is in bed. Babylon controls the merchants of the earth. Friends, these merchants are the ones who run social media, the platforms. Yeah. Merchants of the beast. The MOB, Silicon Valley, the merchants are all in bed with popery. Babylon of the last days. And verse 13 says, they will enslave. Go read verse 13 of chapter 18 of Revelation. They will enslave the masses. Slavery means you don't have any rights. So Babylon is behind this movement to strip away your rights, to make you slaves. I hope I'm making sense today. Am I? All right. John Kerry, continue.
And people go, and that people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years I've been involved in this.
Do you see, my friends? And now the man is going to say, you are sick. Listen.
But look, if people go to only one source, and the source they go to is sick, and, has an agenda, and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So,
watch these 4 points. You are sick, number one, if you promote a narrative that we label as disinformation. Number 3, the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is a major block to stop that disinformation. And number 4, he just said what? We want to hammer you out, hammer it out of existence. 4 major points. Remember now, John Kerry is Catholic. Breaking news. And also belongs to a secret society, Skull and Bones, Who also said those 4 high points? Look at your screen. The Pope of Rome. This is Catholic News Service. The Pope says fundamentalism is a sickness. Quote, direct quote, many who believe they possess the absolute truth, they go ahead dirtying the other with calumny, with disinformation and doing evil, end quote. That's a nail in a sure place. That's a nail in their coffin. Pun intended. Skull and bones. Where do you put bones? In coffins. In the earth, in the grave, in the tombs. Skull and bones. You are sick. If you promote what we label as disinformation, it's clear now, friends. It's clear. It's clear. Look at this. A second statement from RomeReports.com. You know what? I'm going to move on. Watch this now. And the Pope is saying social media must censor and ban these preachers, ban these talking heads, ban these platforms and channels that we are against because they are against our narrative. Do you remember Martin Luther in the protest and the Reformation of the 16th century? Luther was using what they would have called back then social media. But that was not the virtual space. It was the stationary press, the printing press. And Popery took over the printing presses through the kings of Europe, through her Jesuits, to silence freedom of speech. Look at it now. And Popery did that through what was called the Inquisition Board. And that board is still intact today, only with a different name. And Henry Kissinger once wrote, religious unity had flourished with the survival and spread of Protestantism. But watch, the Protestant Reformation destroyed the concept of a world order. Do you see it now? Sustained. The world order was sustained by 2 swords, the papacy and the empire. Does that make sense, friends? What is the WEF calling for? Klaus Schwab. What is Tedros? I'm going to him right now. WHO calling for world order. What is the UN leader? Antonio Guterres calling for a global world order. The Pope is calling for a new economic order. Kerry, a new world order. It's only going to be sustained by 2 swords. The papacy and the empire. UN, US. Does it make sense now, friends? But what stands in its way? Give it to me, preacher. Protestantism, freedoms. So to get that world order, they must destroy Protestantism. We're seeing it now. So let me come back to the church. So could it be that the leaders of the SDA leadership are also promoting the new world order? How so, Pastor Enriquez, as they're now censoring the protest and the call for reformation? The question is, are these 2 leaders and others a part of secret societies? Friends, I know what the answer is. I simply raise questions to get you to think. You wait until I get to subsequent lessons. But you don't have to wait. Matthew 7, Christ says, by their fruit you shall know them. That needs to be repeated. By their fruit you shall know them. So what is the PARL director promoting? The policies of Popery. By their fruit you shall know them. What are the leaders of the GC promoting? The policies of Babylon. By their fruit you shall know them. In their eyes, the protest is over. But God will have a voice in the wilderness, like John the Baptist, like Christ, the disciples, the reformers of old, John Wycliffe, Martin Luther. Let's continue. This is Tedros. Hear what he says. WHO, listen, if I was a comedian, I would give you a joke and make it funny. We don't play games here. Listen attentively.
Trust into the global system is very, very difficult, especially with all the misinformation and disinformation. And the challenge we're facing now with the pandemic agreement, with all the misinformation circulating, this pandemic agreement is a negotiation between member states and for member states. And when agreed, it will be implemented based on their national laws. But what's circulating now is as if WHO is going to take over or WHO is going to be dictating lockdowns and so on, which will never happen because what is circulating is actually a lie and a misinformation.
Listen.
The member states should come out and say this is a negotiation between us, for us, and we will implement it based on our national law. And there is nothing that will be a world government, that some people are saying, that will dictate or tamper into their democracy. For trust to come, the member states themselves, the 194, should come and say it, tell the truth. If everybody says it in their respective countries, trust could come. But many countries are quiet.
Why are the countries quiet? Why? Come on, answer. Why? Because the leaders of these countries know it is tyranny. It is a system of draconian policies. And they know if they kick against the prick, they'll either be poisoned, lose their office, even assassinated. They are seeing what happened to JFK.
Almost all of them were quiet, despite all the misinformation that's circulating. This pandemic agreement can help in preventing the same crisis.
You see, my friends? Let me come into the SDA church. Why are many pastors silent? All right. It's the juxtaposition. Why are so many SDA pastors silent when we can see the leaders of the SDA organization have joined with Babylon, promoting Babylon sorcery, silencing freedom of speech, marginalizing the faithful Protestant, blacklisting faithful preachers, stripping away our liberties? Why are they silent? Silence in the face of evil is evil itself. They are indifferent and neutral, and they are committing a grievous crime in the sight of God. Let me close this off.
But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So
I do not repeat things because I want to waste time. We're not here to waste time. He want to hammer it out of existence. Remember, this information is not robotic. It's people they say are promoting misinformation, disinformation, and this one, malinformation. So who do they want to hammer out of existence? The faithful preachers. When I heard that, I recalled this statement. Look at it and weep. Great Controversy, page 227. But inspired with zeal to stamp out heresy, Francis I declared an edict declaring printing to be abolished all over France, to overthrow and destroy Protestantism. Stamp out, come on now, hammer out, blot out, freedom to publish. What do you do when you go on Facebook? You post something, you hit the blue icon that says what now? Publish. You go on You Woke, a button, publish. Make public, private, public, unpublished. Publish. The stationary press and the digital press. Watch now, page 618, last days now. As Satan influenced Esau to march against Jacob, so he will stir up the wicked to destroy God's people in the time of trouble. Satan and his human agents number the world as his subjects, one world order, new world order. But the little company who keep the commandments of God are resisting Protestantism, his supremacy. If Satan could blot them from the earth, blot out, hammer out. If Satan could blot them from the earth, his triumph would be complete. That's it. This is what Kerry, the Pope of Rome, UN leader, WHO leader, Tedros, WEF leaders, including Klaus Schwab. This is what they want to do. They want to blot out of existence those who are resisting their supremacy. Juxtaposition. What's happening now in the SDA community? The GC leaders, they are planning to do, they are presently blotting out of existence those who are resisting their supremacy. 1,092 days of no public remorse, no public compunction, no public apologies. No, I'm sorry, and by God's grace, we won't do it again. We renounce our affinity with Babylon, Babylon's allies, Babylon's sorcery, Babylon's project to overthrow your liberty of conscience. We are sorry. 1,092 days since October 25th, 2021, October 2nd, 2024. And by the way, October is the month as a memorial for the Protestant Reformation, October 31st. This month is going to be a month I'm going to keep on protesting.
And anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today.
Why did I repeat that video? Right now, it's about climate change. Right now, it's about combating pestilences. What is going to happen, Safe to Serve Local and Safe to Serve International? What is going to happen, you SDA people, faithful preachers? What's going to happen when we are going to have to preach against the National Sunday Law? Will it not be a public edict to worship on Sunday? Come on, talk to me. Will they not say we are dissenters because we are preaching God's seventh-day Sabbath in light of those three angels? You're seeing it now. They will say this little company resisting our supremacy. If we can but block them from the earth, our triumph would be successful. We're seeing it now. So how close are we to the end? You need to implement those 5 keys of survival. What have the leaders of the SDA have done? They have already said we will not impinge on state authority. That's the impetus of this lesson. If you can't keep up with the footmen, the pandemic, climate change, how are you going to contend with horses? How will you endure the sweating of the Jordan, which is a time of trouble? How will you do it? How will you do it? The Sunday movement is making its way in darkness, that God's people would not have mercy or justice. What's happening in the world? God's people won't have mercy or justice. Where do we find the policies for mercy and justice as an American citizen? In the U.S. Constitution. That's the nail in a sure place. But what are these men now saying? It's a major block in our way. Get rid of it. So those people won't have mercy or justice. Come to the church now, SDA. Are they silencing and doing great injustice to Dr. Vine and a few other faithful preachers? No mercy, no justice, but they're unmerciful. We don't care about your job. We won't defend you. Injustice, we will side with the state. The Bible says, they said, submit to Caesar. Submit to Babylon. Injustice, 1,092 days and counting. By God's grace, I'll see you tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern for Midday Power Surge. The protest, the Reformation continues.